Hello and welcome back to another episode of the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast with me, your host Ryan, the founder of Rocket SaaS. And today we have a guest. It's been a little while since we've had a guest on the show, but we have Janelle Amos on the show. Janelle, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I've heard wonderful things about you. So Jamie, who's a regular guest on the pod, my head of strategy here at Rocket SaaS, he said, you got to get Janelle on the pod. She's a brilliant marketer. I think you trained Jamie to be an even better marketer. So I have some thanks to give you for making Jamie a brilliant marketer.
I would not say trained. I would say helped. He always had it in him, to be honest with you.
Okay, just a helping hand. But yeah, tell our audience, tell us about you. I know you're an expert in B2B SaaS marketing, hence why we got you on the show, but tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, happy to. So, hey, I'm Janelle. I was former 3-time in-house head of demand gen at leading B2B SaaS companies prior to branching out and going rogue. The last 3.5 years, I've been running my own business, E.L.E.V.A.T.E Growth, where I help B2B companies rev up their marketing engine.
Love it. So what sort of B2B SaaS companies have you worked for in the past?
Mostly within seed to about Series C is the sweet spot. So anywhere between about employees, about 50 to 250 is normally the sweet spot.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's sort of similar with Rocket SaaS. So yeah, we take on a lot of clients around the seed level. You help them get to Series A, B, and then beyond. So yeah, we're aligned there. So in terms of, I know a lot of your content, you talk about where SaaS companies are struggling with their growth or how they can scale better. But from what you're kind of seeing today, what, from your perspective, in terms of growth problems that typical SaaS companies are having, where do you think companies are struggling at the moment? Where do you see people going wrong the most?
So right now, what I'm seeing is companies are being pressured to do more with less. They're doing more efficiency type plays. Tools are getting cut out of the tech stack. They're trying to focus on retention and expansion versus net new business. But with that comes marketing still generating net new revenue. And what I have seen, the latest trend is analyzing growth marketing metrics. And so what do I mean by that is if we're going to overanalyze, for example, Google Ads, we want to make sure we're getting the best CPA. We want to make sure we're getting the best performance marketing metrics within the platform. And that doesn't always translate when we look holistically across the different channels, how that translates into revenue. And so that's what I'm seeing right now is the biggest miss is we're so hyper-focused into these specific channels of performance marketing that we're not taking a step back and looking at how every specific channel plays together for the larger goal.
Right. So that sounds like kind of a demand generation philosophy that I'm a big believer in. I talk about a lot on the pod. So are you saying that a lot of SaaS companies, a lot of kind of agencies, marketers are just looking too much kind of as each individual platform like LinkedIn ads, Google ads, Meta ads, webinar campaign, for example, to kind of silo looking at the metrics of that campaign and not looking at how it is just kind of one piece in the cog of your marketing growth. Is that a good way to describe it?
Precisely. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, do you have any advice around because it's hard. I mean, I talk about it a lot on this podcast, how do you measure demand gen? Because I talk a lot about you do just have to do much more than just doing one particular channel or one particular content piece. It's a lot. It's kind of spread yourself as far and as wide as possible almost, and lots of retargeting and different types of campaigns, and some are going to work, some are not going to work. But that is hard to kind of articulate to C-suite. So how do you kind of tackle that from a kind of demand gen perspective, would you say?
I'd say the first thing we have to answer is, what does work define as? When we say, is it working? What does that mean for whoever we're communicating to? For example, for my clients, what is it that we're looking to get out of this per channel and holistically? For me, marketing that works needs to be driving efficient, repeatable revenue. So I actually have a framework, right, where I analyze the whole funnel all the way from MQL to opportunity to revenue, and then even cost per opportunity, and then diving into what marketing is supposed to be responsible for revenue. For example, 30%. What is the company's actual annual recurring revenue target? Where are we in closing that gap? What is marketing contributing to revenue today? And then what does that look like from an ROI, from a CAC, from et cetera? So I kind of walk through that. I hate the term waterfall because I feel like we've been ingrained with the term waterfall of math in, math out. But for any engagement, I always start with the current state of the land. What is it that we're faced with? Are we even hitting our revenue targets? What's the ROI? And it's astounding when I pull these numbers and I have that conversation with clients and others, kind of the state of the land. Nobody pulls these things. And so when we say, is marketing working? And we don't know that answer yet, we start there. And then we understand, what are all the channels that are contributing to this? Are we able to effectively map that from a buyer journey perspective to see how it rolls into these larger goals? Then we identify what levers we want to pull and strategically create our hypothesis. And then over time, we track back to this overarching efficiency spreadsheet and we say, are we positive or negative? And that's how we continue strategically navigating some levers to ultimately get the numbers in our favor.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So in terms of it to try and like get an example. So if a brand was running so ads across multiple different channels like Google and LinkedIn and Meta, and perhaps they were running some content campaigns, top of funnel and case studies and webinars. If you can't measure what other metrics, I guess I'm asking, are you kind of looking for to measure if it's not just conversions? What are the things you kind of set out at the beginning to say, if we hit these targets, then, we feel like it's going in the right direction, even if the leads are not quite there?
Yeah, so I measured a revenue. And so what we do in that spreadsheet is we look at the marketing budget as a whole, because ultimately that budget is being spread across multiple channels, Google, Meta, LinkedIn, et cetera, like insert channel here. Whatever we're spending money on, that's a marketing budget line item. The way that we're going to get to revenue is by getting high intent conversions. So for me, those are demo requests. Now, every company is different in this next part, whether it's a lead, whether it's an MQL, whether it's an SQL, whether it's an SQA, everybody defines something differently. So I'm a little tailored depending on the language that the client speaks, but that's what we measure. Essentially, we go back and we look at, okay, are we doing thousands of MQLs and we're having a small percentage into SQOs, for example? We should probably look at that conversion, right? And so if we then come down to the funnel and we're way off from a revenue and efficiency and ROI standpoint, something's not working. Then we go into the specific channels and I look at what are the specific channel strategies. Are we doing the right strategy for this channel, et cetera? And then try and navigate some of those levers as well. But it's holistic first. It's got to be the overarching like dollars as a whole before we even deep dive into channels.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, well, me and Jamie, we just had a meeting about an hour ago where we were talking about a similar thing for our business, for Rocket SaaS, in terms of improving the HubSpot reporting and working backwards in terms of what's the goals of the company. It's like our goal here at Rocket SaaS is to increase MRR by £10,000 every single month. So if we're going to do that, how many sales do we need to be making each month? So if we're going to be making X number of sales per month, how many presentations do we need to be doing? How many discovery calls do we need to be doing to get that many presentations? How many qualified leads do we need to be getting in to be getting that many discovery calls? So if we need that many leads, how much ad spend do we need to be putting in? What performance do we typically need to be getting off of each channel? And then, you basically kind of reverse engineering all the way back from the goal.
As long as your conversion rates throughout those are healthy, then I would say that's a great starting point. But if conversion rates between leads and opportunities is entirely unrealistic, then just reverse engineering, we're just piping the same bad thing that hasn't worked before. I'm not saying you're doing that, but like that's what I've seen with other companies, is we're just like ignoring the performance side of how marketing is going. And then we're just going to like 10x the efforts. And I'm like, well, bad in equals bad out. So like, why don't we fix some of the leaks first? And then, then we pipe it up a little bit more. But with what you mentioned, reverse engineering, I'm a big fan of. And so I think that that's a great place for you guys to start.
Yeah, I meet a lot of clients that come to us and they're like, oh, we've been spending $5,000 a month on LinkedIn ads for the last 6 months. We don't think it's got any leads. And I'm like, well, why is it still on? You should turn it off. And fix whatever's happening. If you're driving traffic to a terrible website with terrible messaging, terrible platform graphics, no calls to action, even things like the sales team not following up fast enough. Or I've had clients where everything looks great, and then they showed me a recording of their sales presentation, and it's been an absolute disaster. Just the sales guy shouting for an hour. So you got to figure out where are people leaking and fix the leaks in the bucket before you start spending more. Or sometimes you need to turn off the budget because the leaks are so bad, you need to fix them. So yeah, I see that a lot. But I've heard you talk a lot about on LinkedIn about companies going wrong in predictable ways. Is that what we talked about already? Or do you see any other sort of classic predictable ways that companies are going wrong?
Well, I think the first thing for predictability is, can we do it again next year? Right. So we had talked about the waterfall metrics, if you will. And again, I hate that term. I need to think of another one and like brand it and like register trademark it. So nobody steal this and do this first. But we need to take those numbers first and then understand, if we did this again without increasing budget, what does that look like? Can we do it like time over time? And if that starts to prove true, then that's when we start looking at what happens if we increase our investment, what happens if we add a new channel. That's when fun marketing comes. But until then we need to, and honestly, this is the hardest part of marketing, in my opinion, is patience. And not patience from a marketer, it's patience from an executive team. So there's a lot of pressure in getting to the revenue target. And then once you're there, it's a lot easier of a conversation than say, let's hold steady for another year. But if you're constantly year over year not hitting targets, eventually execs and boards, they run out of patience.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, I've heard of the expression, the perfect repeatable week, the perfect repeatable month, the perfect repeatable quarter. So if you like a lot of businesses, they do a webinar when they feel they've got the time, and they maybe release some kind of an ebook or a white paper like occasionally. The founder will do a few LinkedIn posts when he or she's got the time, and they'll pump out maybe a new campaign when they just sort of feel the need maybe. But really the businesses that scale fast have like a calendar, so they know they are going to be doing one webinar every month, they're going to be doing one breakfast event every 2 weeks on a Monday. The founder's going to be posting every weekday on LinkedIn. There's going to be new campaigns going out just on a schedule, blogs, newsletters, weekly podcasts, and it's that kind of predictability. Obviously you've got to figure out what types of content is going to work and what's not, and you can dip your toe in that. But when you find that things are working, that's when you really need to just start getting some rhythm happening, is what I find. I mean, that's what we found with this podcast, for example. It's a great podcast. It's now starting to actually bring in leads. So we just need to double down on it. So keep doing episodes once a week. We've always done that. But now we're investing more into ads to get it boosted. We're kind of going to be sponsoring other podcasts, and just, yeah, really getting in that rhythm and kind of cranking the handle with ads is what we find is our strategy, and it's working so far.
Yeah, well, awesome to hear that it's working. I'll just put a cherry on top of what you just said. So yes, absolutely need to maintain consistency. But what I have found for companies to work well for efficiency is SOPs, standing operating procedures. And so if we can follow the same process every time and get the same result, for me, that's repeatable and efficient.
Yes, I am a huge fan of SOPs. So yeah, that's been unbelievable, not just from a marketing point of view. Probably the main thing has been the operations of the business. So like growing the business, when I used to hire a new person or when I used to take on a new client, it used to be like kind of, right, everybody, we got a new client or we got a new employee. Let's just, what do we do? Oh, we have to train them on this and that. Oh, I can't remember. Whereas now we've got this procedure, this process, these standard operation procedures that we go through every single time, and it's brilliant. And they have been amazing for the marketing side of things as well. So when we want to spin up a landing page, or we've got a new employee that's got to work on a whole like webinar campaign, the SOP is right there, as opposed to them trying to have to have a meeting with me and walk them through, okay, this is how we do webinars. So yeah, standard operating procedures, massive fan of that. I don't think my business would have scaled anywhere near as fast as it has done if it wasn't for them. I think it's an Americanism. Most people in the UK haven't heard of an SOP. But I had an American consultant that taught me all about it.
There you go.
Yeah, love it. Big fan. But tell me about, this is the main thing I wanted to talk to you about in this podcast. You have your own, you talked about trademarking a framework, but you've already trademarked one framework, E.L.E.V.A.T.E, your E.L.E.V.A.T.E growth framework. So tell us about that.
So it's a 7-step process, but essentially it's the repeatable process that I've used to help clients not only hit, but exceed their revenue targets. So my value add to companies is being able to 2x their pipeline in 2 quarters or less. And I say pipeline like qualified pipeline. It's not just going to pipe up some numbers that don't close, because we're all looking at revenue here. But some of the recent ones that my clients has had is 766% pipeline in 5 months, 240% close one ARR in 6 months. So certainly the framework that we've been implementing be tried and true. So that's exciting.
Awesome. But can you take us through each of the letters and what they stand for?
No, yeah, I can. I'm just kidding. So there is 7 steps, but technically the framework is only 6, and you'll see why. So the first step is evaluate key metrics and KPIs. So this starts from the very first conversation we had about understanding what's working and what's not today. What is marketing even held accountable for? Why are these KPIs important? What should each channel be held accountable to? And then how does that roll into the larger story? Let's start there and understand, does your business currently have clear goals? Like, do we even know what we're hired here to do? How successful have we been in pacing towards those, et cetera? So I'm not going to give you guys everything because it is proprietary, right? But I'll give you guys a teaser around it. And so the next letter is L. So that's locate the weaknesses. So this is what's not working today. What are some missed opportunities? Is there any holes in the foundation right now? Is there a lack of strategy? It's better understanding where the weakness is inside the business and the reason why, candidly, I was hired. The next letter is E again. So that one is engineer a plan. So this is kind of what you touched on as reverse engineering. Now we know the North Star metrics. Now we know essentially what's at risk. Then we understand why anything is not working today, any holes or any issues. And then we do that gap analysis and we help them close that gap. The next one after that is now we understand the full idea of the gap that we need to close. Then let's go break it up channel by channel. So the V is value-driven channel strategies. So that is understanding how each channels work collectively to tie back to the larger goals and KPIs of the reasons why we were here to begin with. The next one is an allocate resources. So do we currently have a big enough marketing team for what we need? Do we currently have the right budget that's needed to hit these goals? Do we currently have the right tech stack? Do we currently have, margin for testing? Like, what is it that we need to allocate in different components in order to make this gap analysis and channel strategies come true? Then it's transforming tech stack. Are we switching from a lead gen model to an ABM model? Are we switching from measuring MQLs to measuring sales qualified opportunities? So all the things that might need to be configured within the tech stack, let's identify that and let's, again, allocate resources to then get this done. After that, those were the 6 steps. The last one is the 7th. This is execute. This is where a lot of companies and marketers go wrong because they want to start with executing first. It's constant fire drills. It's reactive mode. It's go, go, go. But if we haven't started from step 1 and understand why we're here to begin with, executing does nothing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I imagine obviously this answer varies depending on the size of the business, but when you've implemented this E.L.E.V.A.T.E framework, how long does it take to get to that execution point?
So I would say from an entire full-fledged marketing initiative, probably about 6 months, to be honest with you. I always start with low-hanging fruit. So I try to do within the first 30 days, we're implementing something. I have not found to date, and probably someone can challenge me on this by becoming a client and saying, I bet you can't do this. Of all of the, I think it was 25 clients I've worked with in the last 3.5 years, I have not found a low-hanging fruit opportunity. I have not found one. So I've always been able to then say, here's something that we could do today that can impact tomorrow. And so I always try to start there because, one, as a consultant, when you're able to make a really high impact, low effort win, especially right off the bat of being signed, that sets a really good tone for the relationship going forward and trust. So I always try to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that a lot here at Rocket SaaS. So like when we take on clients, we don't have the E.L.E.V.A.T.E framework, but it's similar in terms of obviously putting the strategy together, doing the audit, running a few tests, implementing, and then, results come after that. But sometimes, you don't have that time. You don't have that kind of, blessing to take kind of 3 months before results start coming in. So we've been talking a lot about how we need to get that quick wins with clients. They need to believe in us. Because if, that third invoice for the month has gone out and there's been no leads coming in, it can get quite itchy, and consultants and agencies certainly suffer from that, and in-house people too. So in terms of low-hanging fruit, what are the typical kind of low-hanging fruits that you find when you work with companies that you typically implement quickly and get quick wins? My
number one go-to has to be somewhere around pipeline acceleration or close lost. So most companies, and I say most, don't have an evergreen repeatable close loss program. So what I mean by that is after a timeline, say 6 months, an email automatically gets picked up that then understands why they were closed lost to begin with and like re-nurtures them and tries to get a conversation again. There's nothing automated behind that. So what companies do is all the great conversations they've had where people just either went dark or they were like, follow up with me in 6 months for new budgets. They just never get action. And so because they're listed as closed lost in the CRM, marketing's not like actively nurturing them. And so, hey, what if we just a high impact, low effort, close loss drip campaign? What can we see from that? So that's normally my number one success. And then the next one thereafter is pipeline acceleration. Our opportunity is getting stalled somewhere. What can we do? Is there an offer? Is there a peer-to-peer incentive? Is there like an office hours type of thing that we can implement to help get back into the conversation, pull in more decision makers, understand a little bit more, and then essentially push that into the next stage?
Love it. Yeah. Closed lost. That is a gold mine.
And it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be. But to this day, most companies overlook that. So that's one of the goals, not only just creating that drip for like immediate pipeline impact, but then also setting it up to be evergreen. Is at a certain timeline duration, we pick it up with branded templates that can be filtered based on close loss reasons. And then we're constantly, again, repeatable, efficient, like we're doing this in our sleep type of motion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Every kind of business owner or salesperson or marketing person will be familiar with that lead that just came back out of nowhere. Like, oh, hey, we spoke 8 months ago. I'm ready now. It's like, yes. But there's so many, in the closed lost area of your CRM that you're just not following up with. They may have unsubscribed to your newsletter, or shame on you, you may not even have a newsletter. So there is such a goldmine in there. Like we take on a lot of clients and they say, yeah, we've got like 8,000 people in our CRM. We don't really do much with it. And I'm like, goldmine. They're people that have
as long as they're fit the ICP and they're marketable, goldmine. But
for sure, yeah. I mean, some people say, "Oh, we got 8,000 people. We bought some cheap list and just chucked them in there." I mean, that's no good.
But if it's strategies and they're no longer fit our ICP, so we don't want to be marketing to them.
Or there's that. Yeah, but if there's hundreds or thousands of people that have inquired in the past, attended webinars. And the conversation never went any further at the time. There's, statistically going to be a number of people in there that they've grown as a business. They've got more money. They've raised funding. The blocker person has left the company. So I do really love that as a low hanging fruit. The other one that you mentioned was just like speeding up the process. And that's an interesting one. Like we do a campaign here at Rocket SaaS for a lot of our clients, which is where you can buy out the other competitor's contract kind of thing. So let's say lots of people are interested in my B2B SaaS product, but they don't want to do a demo because they're tied in for the next 7 months with our competitor. So they're going to loop back in 7 months when that's expired. And we say, well, why don't you give them an offer where you say, if you sign up today, you can have our platform for free for 7 months. So you don't pay double subscription. And they're like, oh, okay, well, great. That's the only reason I'm not signing up with you, because I didn't want to pay double subscription. So if you can swallow that financially, that is often a way to really speed up the deal.
That's a great example. That's a great example. I'm actually having similar conversations with one of my clients right now, specifically about an offer, not quite what you mentioned, but somewhere else in their contracting strategy. But yeah, sometimes the hardest part is just going back and doing the analysis of it and understanding why are they being stalled out, or what can we be doing from an acceleration standpoint. So you hit the nail on the head right there. I think you guys are doing great work.
Yeah, thank you. And then, going back to your other low-hanging fruit thing, the other low-hanging fruit, obviously there's the technical stuff. If you audit a Google Ads account, LinkedIn Ads account, and you see some shocking keywords, or someone's got audience match turned on, that's always a bit of a low-hanging fruit. Spinning up a new landing page often just immediately gets better performance from ads is something that we always is a bit of a go-to. Those are often low-hanging fruit things, but often it's around messaging. It's like your messaging is awful. I go on your website, I can't understand what you do. Let's rewrite the homepage messaging. If you're already getting decent traffic to the homepage, then that alone should be low hanging fruit for you there.
Yeah, I struggle with the term low-hanging fruit there, though, because spinning up a landing page, unless they have a template already that they can use that we can just easily either clone, tailor, switch messaging. I agree fundamentally that those tactics do help and do work, but in the companies that I work with, either resources are really strapped on bandwidth or they just don't have that designer, or the turnaround, is crazy. It takes them a month to do something. So I think understanding, again, how resources work within each organization is important to then understand what is and is not considered low-hanging fruit based on what we have and know today. Because if I were to go to somebody and say, your messaging isn't the way that it needs to be, let's go and update that, that's no yesterday and today type of impact. A lot of people come into play for a committee of understanding corporate messaging, positioning, product messaging. But I don't disagree. When that's right, when that's done, it certainly has a great impact. I guess it would just be case by case in terms of whether I personally would define it as like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, you're right. It depends on the resources and the size of the company. Yeah, if it's a small startup, just change the messaging on the homepage. Let's get it done.
They're my favorite because they're just like, go, just do it. Go. There's no thinking. Well, they're thinking, but like, there's no politics. There's no like hurdles. It's just, yeah, let's do it. Go, go, go. Like, those are my favorite.
Yeah, corporate companies. Yeah, rechanging the homepage messaging might take a bit more time. But in terms of if people like what they've heard from you and then they want to learn more about the E.L.E.V.A.T.E framework and working with you, tell us, how do they find out more about you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is over at LinkedIn. So you can type in my name, Janelle Amos, send me a connection request or a DM. I'd love to chat more.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I'm sure Jamie says hi. I'm in the office with him tomorrow.
Hi, Jamie.
And I'm sure he's going to enjoy this to the pub. But thank you so much for coming on. And no, it was great to meet you.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you for having me.